Politicians in Australia, take note. It is possible to be liked. Just look at the New Zealand PM, Jacinda Ardern. Not only is she good at her job, she's also taking nation building to the next level by combining politics with pregnancy. The 37-year-old will give birth in June, but says she'll be back running the country within weeks. Prime Minister Ardern's no-fuss, can-do attitude is proving an enormous hit with Kiwi voters who up until now have been used to a more traditional kind of baby-kissing politician. In terms of being pregnant, how much of a help in those approval ratings do you think the baby, how much does he help out?
Slipping in genders there.
No, I'm just trying to trick you into telling us what you know and you haven't told anyone.
No, I haven't told anyone. I thought that it would be detrimental. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
It is a real privilege and an honour to introduce to you your new government.
New Zealand is now in the grip of what's been called Jacinda mania.
Hello, everybody. What's your name? My name is Jacinda.
At 37, Jacinda Ardern is the world's youngest female leader and the most popular. A barefoot politician with the electric smile and the modern touch.
I've been set a challenge to see if I can rattle off in 1 minute everything that we did within our first 100 days of government. Started Kiwi Build, we banned the sale of state housing, we banned microbeads, we set up the Pike River Agency, we scrapped national standards. How did I do? How did the government do? Don't turn this into a drinking game, that would be irresponsible.
This stylish makeover of New Zealand politics is completed by Jacinda's partner, TV star Clark Gayford. What kind of responsibilities are you seeing for the first bloke, as well as child rearing, of course?
I don't think it's the kind of thing that we sit down and write lists around. And, you know, to be fair to Clark, he already takes on a lot of those duties. I mean, he does all the household washing.
Are you doing the laundry?
Well, it's just a job that needs doing.
You know, in part it probably started because Clark was upset that I wouldn't do Red separately.
Look, if you're going to do something, do it properly.
One of Jacinda Ardern's toughest jobs is handling the delicate relations with New Zealand's first people, the Maori. This union has long been contentious and sometimes hostile.
The key is, though, of course, you maintain eye contact through that challenge. You look eye to eye, face to face.
Such is her standing, she was the first Prime Minister ever invited to deliver an address from a marae, the traditional meeting house to commemorate the Waitangi Day Treaty between the British and the Maori.
Hold us to account. Because one day I want to be able to tell my child that I earned the right to stand here. And only you can tell me when I have done that.
In the past, New Zealand politicians have mostly made lightning visits to Waitangi for these commemorative celebrations. Jacinda Ardern stayed for 5 days.
Oh, but I might risk burning my bacon there.
And with her cabinet, helped cook breakfast for 1,000 people.
Prime Minister, we don't see this in Australia.
Oh, do you not?
No, I don't think Malcolm Turnbull does this.
You do barbecues, I know.
We do barbecues, but I don't think Prime Ministers serve Australians in this way.
Somebody in the crowd called out, Jacinda, you're better than Obama.
Yes, and I think
Big call, that.
Yeah, it was. I think that's actually what I said. I think I said that's a big call.
70% of Kiwis approve of you. Did you expect Jacinda mania, as they call it?
I've always rebelled a bit against that because, you know, I do think increasingly in politics people want to get to know their politicians. Rightly so. You know, you want to have a sense of what your values are, but ultimately I would never want that to replace policy on what you intend to deliver. That should matter. That should always matter.
So you're not just the Messiah?
I'm no Messiah. Politics is fragile.
At the bottom of the North Island, Wellington is the capital of the country, and home to its parliament. Jacinda Ardern is the country's 40th leader and third female Prime Minister.
It's a great thing, although many people disparage it, to aspire to be the leader of your country.
It is. And I wish more young people aspired in that way.
And there are girls out there looking at you now.
I'm always careful about that trite language of, you can do anything. But then I have to sit for a moment and think, well,
but you can.
Here I am.
Like a lot of New Zealand kids, Jacinda grew up in the country, in a place called Murrinsville, with her parents Ross and Laurel and older sister Louise.
We had a little bit of an orchard that we ran when I was small.
Your dad was a copper?
My dad was a policeman.
But a part-time farmer?
Yeah, I remember he would come home and take off his uniform and go out and spray the trees, or on holidays we would pick together. It was great. It's how I learnt to drive a tractor first.
How did a nice person like you then, growing up in that way, get involved in the sordid world of politics?
Nice people go into politics.
Do take a seat. It must have been exciting the first day.
Jacinda first entered Parliament as an opposition Labor Party MP in 2008.
Would you have ever thought in 10 years' time from sitting here you would be the Prime Minister?
Not in a lifetime. Nope.
That would be overweening ambition, wouldn't it?
It would also be overwhelming.
Counting in the September 2017 general election saw Jacinda's Labor Party 10 seats short of forming a government themselves. But she was able to end 9 years in the political wilderness by striking a coalition deal with the New Zealand First Party, led by the stylish and crafty Winston Peters.
Oh, well, I have never said a bad word about Jacinda, which is somewhat unique for me in politics in this country. She's genuine. She hasn't got airs and graces. Whatever you might think of what she says, there's a certain honesty of a thought behind it. And yet, whether you agree or not.
Having met her, I think
Yeah.
she seems to be a very decent leader.
Yeah.
And we might invite her to Australia.
Yeah, well, I can see some gaps, seriously, in Australian politics that need some filling.
So what Charlie's really done here is he's worked himself to get a bit of fishing into the story. That's the only reason we're out here, right?
That's right. And then really I'm moving towards the notion that Jacinda, what a great catch.
The Prime Minister's partner, Clark Gayford, is a media star in his own right.
You can see Charlie's missed his real calling in life, and that he secretly wanted a fishing show the whole
I
time.
did want a fishing show. I'm so jealous of you.
I'm Clark Gayford, and this is Fish of the Day.
His latest television foray, Fish of the Day, is a fishing and lifestyle doco-series set in New Zealand and the Pacific, what I resentfully consider a dream job.
What's happening now? That's a better fish.
You're in there, Charlie.
I think mine's bigger than yours. I think my fish is bigger than the first bloke's.
But for now, Clark knows his fishing days are numbered as he settles in to the role of playing New Zealand's first bloke.
How will you take playing second fiddle now?
I don't have a problem with that. I've never had a problem with that, and her star has been a lot brighter than mine.
Do you think the Prime Minister will remain as nice and grounded, decent and reasonable as she is now?
Well,
after a few years?
Yeah, see, I'm a plant. I've been put in place just to work out if there is any cracks behind the veneer, and I can actually honestly say that there's none, and there is no difference between what you see and hear and what she's like at home.
Except in the mornings.
In the mornings, it can get a little bit, there's a few tense moments.
I just got to warm up. I warm up to my day. Welcome, everyone, for a somewhat unusual announcement. We're looking forward to welcoming our first child.
And what hasn't been helping the Prime Minister's mornings in recent months was her unexpected pregnancy, which was publicly announced in January.
I had to acknowledge it was a surprise for us.
There is one really important political question I want to ask you, and that is, what exactly is the date the baby's due?
17th of June.
The 17th. It's interesting how much people have been counting back to the conception, as it were.
Really?
Well, having produced 6 children, it doesn't amaze me that people can have children. Why shouldn't a child be conceived during an election campaign?
Well, I mean, it will,
Not why
the
should. I'm
election,
not
I
asking why should it. I'd say why shouldn't.
But I should add that the election was done. Yep.
It was over.
It was over.
The child is...
Not that we need to get into those details.
No, the child is steeped in politics, though.
Poor thing.
When Jacinda Ardern gives birth in June, she'll become the first elected female Western leader to have a child in office. And yes, it's raised all the expected questions.
Can you have a baby, be a mother, and still do the job?
Well, of course you can. You know, I've seen and heard some extraordinary statements on that matter. A lot of them are politically biased.
Such as?
Well, you know, that she should be focusing on the job and she should have told everybody she was going to have a baby. Well, frankly, that's narrow, silly, biased, politically, and just pretty jaundiced, actually. Let me tell you, my mother had 11 children. She was last to bed, first up every morning. We got a great start in our lives, a great education. We're all alive. What I'm saying is, of course, Jacinda can have a baby. Of course, the Prime Minister job can be done.
Were you surprised that all of this, a natural occurrence of life and reproduction, has made you, probably in the Western world, one of the most interesting leaders of any democracy?
I'm not sure that that's something that feels very real, you know, because day to day I'm still a Kiwi who happens to have a really privileged role, and that's the bit that I concentrate on. So there's not a lot of time to reflect on what everyone else says about you or your situation.
I've met a lot of Prime Ministers in my time, but none so young, not too many so smart, and never one so attractive. And admittedly, although somewhat smitten, just like the rest of her country, I do know that what's really important in politics has to be what you leave behind.
Thank you for the support you've given us. And now let's do this.
For me, the first time I had a child, I started to worry more about the future of the world and the kind of place I was bringing a child into. You feel that now, don't you?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that's why going out fishing with you, Charlie, where you can show that connection back to nature, and you hear the stories, oh, how good it used to be, and it's not just the future of yourself that you have to worry about, it's, you know, your children and the future of the planet that you're leaving for everyone else.
You have a golden opportunity to do something now for the future of fishing too.
Yes.
For all fish.
Yes, yeah, no, that's right. But that golden opportunity, there is this enormous weight of expectation. And when people come up to you in the street and say, I feel so hopeful now, you know that behind that sits not just the, I'm glad you're there, but it's, I want to see what you're going to do. And I feel that acutely, really acutely.
Perhaps we can go fishing sometime.
Yes.
Because he wasn't catching any big ones.
Well, he did say TV fishing.